So, good morning everyone, and on behalf of the Paris Committee on Capacity Building, the PCCB, I'd like to welcome you here today. Thank you for joining us at the Capacity Building Hub, the fourth Capacity Building Hub. My name is Roberta Ianna. Together with Yongxiang, I'm one of the co-chair of the Paris Committee of Capacity Building, and some of you, I think many of you, already knows the PCCB very well, but let's quickly build the capacity of everyone about the PCCB. So the Paris Committee on Capacity Building was established in 2015 at COP21 and seeks to address current and emerging gaps and needs in implementing and further enhancing capacity building in developing countries. The mission of the PCCB is to identify capacity gaps and needs and potential solutions, including enhancing the coherence and coordination of capacity building efforts related to climate change. And to support the PCCB mission and mandate, the committee launched the network, the PCCB network, in 2020 as a voluntary association of interested stakeholders engaged in climate-related capacity building activities. The PCCB network provides a platform to share information on best practices and contributes to the work of the PCCB in fulfilling its mandate and seeking to connect it with the peers across sectors and regions. As of today, the PCCB network unites more than 300 organizations where several areas of capacity building in the context of climate action are addressed among the networks. And I'm glad now to give the floor to my co-chair of the PCCB, Yongxiang Zhang. Please, Yongxiang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberta. Good morning, colleagues. I'm Yongxiang Zhang from China. I'm the co-chair with Roberta and the PCCB. So continue. First, I want to join Roberta to welcome all you to join the fourth Capacity Building Hub. And right now, I would like to give you a brief introduction about this hub. So the PCCB regularly mobilize the expertise of its network members through interactive and collaborative activities. Like the fourth Capacity Building Hub here today, of 55 diverse organizations participating in this hub. About 28 are members of the PCCB network. So today we open with the capacity building, which will be followed by various thematic days, including implementation, Article 6 and 13 of Paris Agreement Day tomorrow, and Just Transition and Sustainable Economics Day on Friday, Open Space Learning Day this Saturday, Ocean and Land Day on Monday. Building capacities with action for climate empowerment ACE Day on 15th November. And the hub will finally close off on 16th with the PCCD Focus Area Day. 48 different events will be organized by 55 diverse organizations that will populate with these 7 thematic days under the umbrella of the fourth Capacity Building Hub. Therefore, the hub is a wonderful example of climate stakeholders working together across sectors and regions for high ambition and great actions. And speaking of PCCB network members, this year's Capacity Building Day has a focus on amplifying networks for collective capacity building. With this thematic day being led by 2 network members, the International Center for Climate Change and Development and the United Nations Universities Institute for Environment and Human Security. Before we go into hearing from our lead partners about the objective of this day, I would like to invite my fellow committee member, Rosbella Martinez, led the she's the lead of Working Group 2 on the mainstreaming cross-cutting issues to speak about the diversity of the hub. So over to you, Rosabelle. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Yun-Shan, and thank you everybody for being here this morning. My name is Rosibel Martinez, and I'm another member of the PCCB, and as leader of Working Group 2 on cross-cutting issues. The committee is composed of 12 members, and 2 of us have the pleasure today to represent this committee, and others will be joining in the rest throughout the 7 days of the hub. In order to ensure the cross-cutting issues are mainstream across the PCCB work plan, the PCCB has invited 5 cross-cutting issue experts. We have our gender expert, Agnes Mirambe. She is the Executive Director of Action for Rural Women's Empowerment in Uganda, a member of Women Engaged for a Common Future. Our youth expert, Maria Cecilia Quaglino, is ECO's Regional Liaison for Latin America and the Caribbean and supports the Global Youth Development Institute. Our human rights expert is Benjamin Schachter, Associate Human Rights Officer of the Office of the United Nations, High Commissioner for Human Rights. For our Indigenous people expert, it's Rita Spafadora. She leads the Indigenous People Alliances for Rights and Development Program at the Forest Stewardship Council for the Indigenous Foundation. And last but not least, our Action for Climate Empowerment expert, Deb Morrison, is a learning designer and advisor of Clear Environment. So these 5 experts have joined the Working Group 2 that I represent and I lead on an activity basis with guidance to the steering committee of the 4th Capacity Building Hub, being the first mammoth task. On behalf of the PCB, we would like to thank our fantastic experts for all their guidance on the integration of cross-cutting issues across the topics and modalities of the 4th Capacity Building Hub. As my colleague, co-chair Roberta mentioned, the hub is a space for representation and collaboration. Inclusivity and meaningful representation form the backbone of our approach. Therefore, this year, with the help of cross-cutting issue, the expert that I mentioned earlier, their dedicated thematic day on building capacity with ACE Day on the 15th, as well as other thematic day with 22 events for ACE and 16 for youth. Gender will be mainstreamed at 23 events. Indigenous people's knowledge will be mainstreamed 7 events. And although only 2 events made explicit references to mainstreaming human rights, due to the interlinked nature of human rights, they are implicitly in other cross-cutting issues as well, which doesn't undermine the importance of being explicit and invoking the human rights obligation in the context of climate change. Well, again, on behalf of the PCCB, I would like to thank the experts for supporting us throughout this process in the preparatory phases of the hub and guiding lead partners and organizers in meaningful mainstreaming cross-cutting issues and representation of vulnerable groups across these events. Well, without any further ado, I would like to pass on the mic to our lead partners to see the scene for the first day of the 4th Capacity Building Hub, the Capacity Building Day, focusing on amplifying networks for collective capacity building. Thanks again for being here.
And so we give the floor now to the Director of UN University, Salman Shen, for welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience for this session, to wait for this session to start. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audience online. welcome to this short session. United Nations University Institute for Environment and Human Security is very pleased to be the host of the Capacity Building Hub. And together with ICCCAD, with which our institute has a very long working relationship, specifically on climate change issues. I also want to thank the organizers of this Capacity Building Hub and the colleagues of UNFCCC for giving us this beautiful space for doing our exhibition and having this session. Networking and capacity building are very close to my heart. As you know, it's very important to work with people together, but we haven't achieved what we should have done in the past. So I'm very happy that this session is happening and networking is being built. I think it's very important for us to work together and also to learn from each other. First, we need to create knowledge, but then we also need to find creative ways to communicate that knowledge. There are different ways to do that. One way, for instance, is to create open space. So invite everyone and all people from all age groups, being very inclusive, to join the discussion on equal footing. We have brought a session, we have actually organized a session on the 12th November at 1 o'clock. It's a session of our institute. Please feel free to join us on the 12th of November, 1 to 15. It's an open space, everyone is invited, and you can discuss very freely from your peers during that session. Another example is also our institute has brought here. If you look at the wall to your left-hand side, you see some very beautiful pictures. And these pictures derived from a photo exhibition. People say that a picture says 1,000 words. We tend to communicate a lot with spoken language and written language. But actually, there are different ways of communicating. We can use much more powerful language apart from written and spoken languages. For instance, images, visuals, films. These are the language we need to use if we want to really tackle climate change challenges. This photo exhibition is part of the project which is called Transformative Urban Coalitions. This project is funded by the German government within their framework of International Climate Initiative. And this project has a lot of creative ways of doing things. And one of the achievements we have seen so far is really the result of networking. We have created networks in 5 Latin American cities, and we have run workshops with all these people from different neighborhoods in the cities and with very different stakeholders, government, civil society, citizens, and we have been very inclusive. That has shown that we have resulted in very rich discussion and very participative discussion as well. The exchange with all the stakeholders has been very inspiring and generated very useful results for our project. If you want to know more about it, we have a session today at 3:45. Please feel free to join our session in the afternoon as well. The power of networks for collective capacity building is the topic of today. We will discuss about it in all 6 sessions. We will cover topics from youth to biodiversity to finance. All these topics we also need to think together because they are all interconnected. Before I came to COP, I happened to read about Susanna Zimat, who is a forest ecologist. She found out, which is really groundbreaking, she found out that trees are connected through a fungi system underneath. Their roots are connected, they build huge networks, and they nurture each other through the fungi network. And there was a biologist actually from Italy, and her name is Lynn Margulis. She found out, even in the 1940s and 50s, that in nature there's as much competition as cooperation. So I truly hope that this capacity building hub will work and cooperate in that spirit. I think we humans can learn so much from the natural system. I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for these interesting remarks, and thank you again for bringing the pictures exhibition to the Capacity Building Hub. They are really beautiful pictures, so I invite everyone to take a look. And it's my pleasure now to give the floor to Professor Salim Houk, who is a very good friend of the Paris Committee of Capacity Building. And the Capacity Building Hub is his home, and he's a very experienced capacity builder. So please, Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roberta. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you at this 4th Capacity Building Hub. I think we've already established a nice tradition in 4 years. But I would also like to put on the record that this is actually the 5th Capacity Building Day, because we started the Capacity Building Day before the Paris Committee started the hub, and then we joined forces from the 2nd year, so we agreed that the first day of the hub would be the Capacity Building Day, and we would continue the tradition of collaborating with them on it. And the theme for the first day is networking. Various sessions are going to take place over the course of today. One of them in particular that my center is very much involved in is network of universities from the least developed countries. It's called the LDC Universities Consortium on Climate Change, LUCCC, or LUC for short. We have a session just after this where my colleague, Professor Mizan Khan, who coordinates that network, will talk more about it, so I won't talk about it here myself. But I'll just say a few words about the hub itself. As I said, even in 4 short years, this has become a very, very important part of every COP, particularly for people who are interested in capacity building, and there are many, many of them, increasing numbers of them. It's a place where we can come together, talk, work together, collaborate, network, away from the negotiations. This is not for negotiators unless they want to come and join us for some sessions, but it is for people who are doing capacity building, involved in capacity building in many, many different arenas. And one of the aspects of capacity building that has become very, very self-evident is that every single country needs capacity building. There is no country on earth that has the capacity to deal with the climate change problem. Different countries need different kinds of capacities, and that's what we try to explore here, is to find avenues to bring together the deliverers of capacity with the users of capacity and link them up, and that's what networking is about. So I would encourage everybody who's here and your friends, encourage them to drop into the sessions during the course of the next 10 days that we are going to be here. There's always something interesting going on here, and as Roberta says, I make this my home in the COP every year, so I can participate in as many sessions as I can, and I look forward to doing that again this year. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you very much, and I think with this we can close this soft opening. Sorry. We will now have side events along all day, but I would like to, beside inviting you to joining these events, at 5 this afternoon we will have the official opening with the reception of the Capacity Building Hub, so of course you are all invited. I take this opportunity to thank one more the UN University and the International Center for Climate Change and Development for coming here today for opening with us the Capacity Building Hub, and hope you will enjoy the rest of the days with us here at the Hub. Thank you for coming again.